and 3 touchdowns passing, just like Dak Prescott and Brock Purdy are. The last one was that classic last season with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, hoping to get a classic there at Levi's Stadium this weekend. Here's Micah Parsons talking about relishing their role as the underdog.
I know when you're getting ready to go into a fight, you need to prepare as if it's going to go 12 rounds, and it's going to go 12 rounds. You know, I watch Ali, the greatest video, almost every week, and he talks about it and how he was ready, and this guy was just too big, he was too strong, and Ali was going to get knocked out, and that's what everybody's saying. We hear it, everybody. No way the Cowboys going to win, no way. Honestly, I think you should feed into, you should love that stuff. Like, when no one believes in you, that's the best feeling. Like, not when everyone believes you and the Kool-Aid's up and everyone's smiling and they're like, they can't lose, they're too good. You don't want that feeling, because then it's like, what if I don't win? When you're already at the bottom, you can only go up, you know? So I really like to be an underdog and that feeling. It's a great story always to tell.
Micah Parsons invoking Muhammad Ali as the underdog. We can't wait for this one on Sunday afternoon. Jane Slater will be there. We're welcomed by Mark Ross as well. And Jane, when you talk about Micah Parsons, we heard a lot of what he had to say about being the underdog, but what else did the Cowboys defense say about facing that loaded 49er offense?
Well, obviously, it's been a discussion point all week, particularly when you consider just how effective Kyle Shanahan's offense has been this year. And we know that he leans heavily on the run game. Look, they're 11-1 since acquiring Christian McCaffrey, and we know that he's going to be a big part of the game plan. In fact, I was looking at some of his numbers, and they are so impressive. They are out rushing their opponents by 908 yards during that 11-game win streak. And then when you went back and looked at that Seattle game, they had 119 yards on 15 attempts for 2 touchdowns, and that was just McCaffrey's stat line. McCaffrey's not the only guy you have to worry about on offense, though. You know this, Omar. I know you cover this team quite a bit. They've got guys like George Kittle. You've got Brandon Ayuk. You've got Deebo Samuel. I asked Mike McCarthy about that, and he said this might be the best 1-2 punch they faced this season. And we've talked so much about this Cowboys run defense and how it's been an issue for them this year. Obviously, that wasn't a big test for them against the Tampa Bay Bucks. And I don't know if there's one game this season that's given you a lot of confidence and their ability to slow down the run. But in talking to Micah Parsons, he said, obviously, you've got to focus on Christian McCaffrey, but the other guy is 1,000% Deebo Samuel. Just the way that he breaks tackles, his yards after catch, you've got to bring him down. And I'll be curious to see what the Cowboys do on the back end with them, how they're lining up certain guys. Perhaps it helps that Dan Quinn does know Kyle Shanahan a little bit, and maybe he's got a couple of favorable matchups up his sleeve.
Well, on the back end there for them, they have to really force Brock Purdy into making tight window throws. Last week against Seattle, with wide open throws, that's 5 or more yards of separation. He was 9 for 10, 179 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. But against tight window throws, he was only 9 of 20. So it's going to be incumbent, not just on that front, Micah Parsons to wreak havoc, but for that back end to have that tight coverage and not get confused. We see with the 49ers offense where you just see guys just running wide open and defenses don't. Or lower the magic, Omar.
Yeah, Jane, you mentioned all the weapons the 49ers have. They're so multi-skilled it makes things a lot easier for an already creative Kyle Shanahan. Schematically, the way he lines them up should be a fascinating matchup to watch. We're going to continue talking about this one. Jane, we'll have much more from you a little bit later. Mark, hang right there. Obviously, Brock Purdy's been one of the great storylines of the second half of the entire season. When you watch him anecdotally, you're like, wow, this kid's playing well. But look at him statistically, and it's all backed up. First, since he's been the starter this season, amongst the very top in all of 2022, the big numbers. Here's Brock Purdy talking about being involved now in this great traditional rivalry.
And so to be a part of it, I'm very thankful. It's pretty cool. It's like, man, you've seen all those highlights and stuff from the 90s and stuff, and now you fast forward to 2023, and here we are, same 2 teams going at it, fighting for the same thing, which is pretty cool. And I just look at it like, we just want to win. We want to do our part, and all the other stuff will fall into place. It's not like, man, this is going to be some kind of, you know, Netflix documentary or anything like that. I'm not trying to make it bigger than that, but very thankful to be a part of it, the rivalry and everything, and having it come back, obviously, to 2023. So it's going to be a good one.
Purdy helping the 49ers win 11 straight at this point, longest since '97 when our very own Steve Mariucci was the head coach of the 49ers. Jim Trotter will also be in attendance there at Levi Stadium covering this one. And when you look at this loaded 49ers offense, we keep talking about it, Jim, but who are some of the unsung heroes of this particular offense?
Yeah, you know, Omar, we just heard Jane talk about all the skill position players, but I want to give a little love to the big uglies up front, the offensive line. You do not do what the 49ers have done if you do not have capable players up front protecting. And there were a lot of questions about this offensive line coming into the season. Look, Pro Bowl guard Laken Tomlinson left in free agency. Center Alex Mack retired. They had 3 new starters on the interior of that line, and each of them had question marks. Let's start with left guard Aaron Banks. You know, he had only 5 snaps as a rookie last year. Then you look at center Jake Brindle. He had not started a regular season game since 2016. And you go to right guard Spencer Buford. He's a rookie. No snaps in the NFL. So when you look at those 3 on the interior and how they have played in terms of complementing the tackles who we know about in Trent Williams and Mike McGlinchey, all this unit has done this year is finished 5th in total yards, 8th in rushing, and 13th in passing. So these guys deserve a lot of credit up front. Let's not forget about them.
Yeah, Trent Williams continues to be one of the baddest men in football. The only success people are having against him, Kyle Juszczyk, his own fullback, who had some friendly fire in that game against the Seahawks, and they had fun with that in the locker room this week. Mark, as far as the wide receivers, back to the skill positions, what do you want to see from CeeDee Lamb in this one?
Yeah, Jim, you got the big uglies. I'm going to go with the pretty boys there, and that's the receivers, and that's CeeDee Lamb. These are the type of games where wide receivers can just take over and make their mark. Our 07 Super Bowl run with the Giants, Plaxico Burress in the NFC Championship game completely took over that game. The 2011 run, Victor Cruz in the NFC Championship game in San Francisco completely took over that game, couldn't be stopped. This is when CeeDee Lamb has to step up against that nasty 49ers defense and that man coverage and make huge plays and take over the game for Dak Prescott. Yes, Dak has to be efficient and effective, but this is the type of game where if CD gets going and takes it over and the 49ers have no answer, he can really make his mark, and that'll help the Cowboys get that W, because I've seen it happen in the past with receivers dominating games for victories, Omar.
Yeah, certainly this is a potential for a reignition of the rivalry, given that the 49ers ended the Cowboys season last year in the wild card round. So certainly Dallas looking forward to this game in more ways than one. Jim, Mark, thank you both very much. Much more on this matchup now. Nick Bosa leading the NFL with 18.5 sacks this season. A monster defensive performance by the 49ers overall, #1. For much more on how the Cowboys offense might fare against them, here's Brian Baldinger with his latest Baldy Breakdown.
Whatever the Cowboys' game plan is for this weekend against the 49ers on Sunday afternoon, the Cowboys better have an answer for Nick Bosa and a ferocious pass rush. Seattle didn't last week, and it cost them. In a tight game right here in the third quarter, on 3rd and 14, Seattle sent 5 receivers screaming down the field. They left the offensive line one-on-one up front, and the result was a forced fumble and a fumble recovery by Nick Bosa. They got greedy. They could have checked it down, maybe kicked the field goal. Now, on this play, Charles Omenihu is going to run a long limbo to the other side. But coming from the right side is Nick Bosa. No double teams, no help, and Nick Bosa crushes the left tackle, and he forces Geno Smith to step up. The ball's out, and Nick Bosa recovers, and the game turned on that one play. Now, if you protect against the 49ers pass rush like the Seattle does here, DJ Dallas stays in. You can make these throws down the field. DK Metcalf, one-on-one against Charvarius Ward. It's a dime. It's a perfect throw to DK, 50 yards. DK's in the end zone. Good coverage by Charvarius Ward, but the throw was perfect. The Cowboys have the same ability to protect. They did it early in the game against Tampa from this formation right here. They gave Dak plenty of time all night, Monday night against Tampa, and he made throws like this over and over again, this one on the outside of Michael Gallup. When you watch the protection, though, watch how careful they are. 4 over 2 to one side, 3 over 2 to the other side, and Dak has plenty of time to set his feet, to step up, hitch and throw, and vision, and he made one great throw after another. It's just a caution. If you don't have a game plan for Nick Bosa every play, like the Raiders did in overtime. Bosa will take the left tackle and walk him right into the lap of your quarterback. The ball will pop up, and chances are the 49ers will come down with it, like they did in overtime, setting up a game winner field goal. The Cowboys have the capabilities of having a really productive offense. We all watched it Monday night, but it starts with protection and specifically an answer for Nick Bosa every single play.
Nick Bosa on one sideline, Micah Parsons on the other.